Welcome back to Rise Africa. Now to some business stories. Business leaders in Nigeria and other stakeholders have thrown their weight behind the decision of the federal government to extend the closure of all the country's land borders to January 31 next year.
The Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mines and Agriculture and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria commended the federal government, saying that the decision shows that the government has the interests of the Nigerian business community at heart. This has come in the wake of operation which President Muhammadu Buhari signed off under the code name Exercise Swift Response, which has necessitated the total shutdown of land boundaries. In line in the president's new order, the land borders will now be reopened on the 31st of January 2020, dealing a blow to the expectations of industrialists in the West African region who were hopeful that the Nigerian government would reopen the borders on or before Christmas. And now the decision to prolong the closure of Nigeria's land borders may likely have a negative side to it. To go with the purported advantages which the numbers of Buhari's administration officials have been promoting, Director General of the Directorate of State Services, Yusuf Bichi, claimed that the incidence of cross-border smuggling has reduced since the onset of the policy. Even the Central Bank of Nigeria's governor, Godwin Emefiele, has called for the closure to be extended for a 2-year period, as according to him, local industry and the manufacturing sector will be the greatest beneficiaries. But in economic, diplomatic and political terms, could this be a serious downside to this decision? To look at all these, we are now being joined from our Abuja studios by Dr. Ndu Nwokolo, an international development specialist who is also the senior policy and research lead at the next year SPD, the Story Peace and Development.
Thank you for joining us on the show at this time.
Now, let's just start from the possible advantages of the border closure, including the ones being promoted by Buhari administration officials. What are they?
Yeah, it has a short-term effect, which we can all see. Judging from what the government said, goods worth 2.3 trillion naira have been seized. It seems like we have a preview of what our border look like based on cross-border banditry, which has been taking place in the northern part of the country. There are other benefits, but for me, they are short-term measures. They are short-term measures which shouldn't stand after a long while. So we should start looking at how to bring measures that will help us solve the situation.
Well, just to be said and to put the facts straight, the Nigerian customs alone cannot close this border. This is in conjunction with other paramilitary and security agencies, the police, the immigration, and a whole host of them. But what are the downsides economically, diplomatically, and politically to this extended closure of border?
It has a lot of downside effects. First, Nigeria is a nodal state, and it's in the sense that we are the previous state of the sub-region. Whatever thing we do affects the entire sub-region. This might affect the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of goods and services, of which we all know. It will equally affect the Continental Trade Agreement, which we've just signed. More importantly, we are presently fighting insurgency in the northeast, of which country like Benin Republic is contributing troops. Niger is part of our multinational joint task force. So it might affect the way they want to the way they want to contribute or get involved in this insurgency or the anti-insurgency fight. So I think that is one. Two, diplomatically, we are seen as the giant of the sub-region, if not Africa. So I think we should be looking at a measure that could help us solve the problem. For instance, we all know that Benin Republic is an entry point economy. I mean, an economy where goods come in, imported goods come in, they now re-export it. What we should do is to sit down with them to find a measure that those goods doesn't find their route into Nigeria. But more importantly, closing border alone is not a solution. If you read the Brooklyn Institute recommendation on cross-border closure, you find out that closing border as a standalone policy will not help. I think by now we should be thinking at how to diversify our economy, create an enabling environment that will help our medium and small and medium scale industries to grow. So if we are unable to do that, closing our borders will not help. It will only give us a short-term effect, which is just giving, but after a while, it will start backfiring.
All right, like you just alluded to, that Nigeria remains a fulcrum in Africa. Shouldn't this particular move and this action be interpreted as turning her back on West African neighbors and the rest of the continent?
Yeah, they might see it in that way, but in the international politics, that's what is called the nation games play, the games nations play. So you understand that I think in several occasions Nigeria have tried to warn its neighbors about how arms find its routes into Nigeria and how smuggled goods get into our country. Probably to Nigeria, we are feeling that they've not done enough to help us to curb the menace. So we have decided to take the bull by the horn by doing what we've just done. But as the big brother that we are, equally being mindful of our position, we should find a way to try to ameliorate the situation by going for a more lasting effect, which is trying to grow our own economy. If our economy is growing the way it's growing, if we are manufacturing the way we should be manufacturing, we should be dominating the whole of coast of West Africa. So goods coming into our border shouldn't be a threat to us. It's like Germany saying, "Oh, I don't want goods from Poland coming in." The German market is already big. So if we are doing very well, we should not care who wants to export anything into our country, because whatever thing you're bringing into our country is going to be costly. So our people are not going to buy it because we are producing more. So it's because we can't produce. That's why cheap goods find their way into our country. So solving our problem first, I think, should be part of the solution, not just closing the border.
Talking about policies, you did say that they should not be a standalone policy. And so what sort of policies do you think that the government should be pursuing to build enough capacity to offset the drawbacks from this action?
First, as an expert in security, I think our borders should be manned very well with latest technology. Closing it it shouldn't be part of what we should consider as a solution. Remember, Nigerians have kids and kids who live on the other side of the border, and border communities should be able to visit their relations across the border. So that's one. Two, if we develop our economy very well, we are almost like running a mono economy, which is driven by oil. If we have an economy that is buoyant, that agriculture is doing very well, manufacturing is doing very well, we shouldn't be thinking about closing our border, because we should be thinking about exporting, to every part of Africa. That is two. Three, I think we should equally use more of a diplomatic effort to do more. I'm part of one of the people who says that we should try to influence the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of goods and services. We should go through that route than closing our border. Closing our border might make some of these countries see us as bullying them. For instance, Benin can decide to say, okay, we are no longer contributing to the multinational task force. Niger can say, okay, we will rather join the G5 Sahel and fight than fight with you. So it has an effect again. So while we try to guide ours, which I think we should do, we should equally look at the positive and the negative effect and try to find better means of carrying out such such strategy.
All right, so how can this border closure be reconciled with the framework for a common African market?
It's almost irreconcilable, because if we have signed to that and we are part of ECOWAS, and we are equally planning that in the next year or so, the ECOWAS currency will be invoked, meaning that goods and services should exchange hands within the shores of West Africa without border. So we are almost like trying to have a borderless sub-region. So if you're closing yours, then it means West Africa is not ready or Nigeria is not ready. And if, based on our population, our economy, and the kind of resources we have, I don't think this country should be a threat to us. If we put our house in order, we should stand to benefit more if we have, our other industries like the manufacturing, the agri sector, tourism, and so on, telecommunication, the services going. If we are producing what we should be producing, they shouldn't be a threat. So closing our border does not in any way align with both the ECOWAS protocol and the African Free Trade Agreement.
Well, international development strategist Dr. Ndu Nwokolo, thank you so much for joining us on the program Arise Africa from our Abuja studios. Very much appreciated.